This is the final result of how I turn my 2D art into 3D scene. And if you haven't watched my previous video of how I draw this amazing lady, I will leave the link in description below. Please check it out. And before we get started, a brief introduction about myself. My name is William. This is my digital art journey. I've never been to art school and recently I got unemployed. And that's the reason why I start to do things I really love to do. I'm a programmer, but I decided to learn digital art and create the thing that I think beautiful from scratch. The best way to support me and to support this channel is to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumb up. Thank you so much. So the first step is to make the 2D image a 3D, like a model. So I use depth map for that. In Photoshop, we got a AI functionality called AI filter, and I choose depth map generation to create a depth map for my image. And then I import this depth map information into Blender, make it a plane that have depth in it. Then I add some texture, which will be just my image, to make the plane a texture. And of course, she got fire on her hand. So let's make a fire. And I use different nodes to do that. Basically, just using a texture to generate a fire-like shape, and then using different texture to generate what is inside of that fire. And in order to make variation, I make multiple fire and I use different size for each of the fire. In the end, I reverse the whole process to make the tip of the fire to be darker, like some sort of smoke. And of course, the fire size is too big, so I'm going to shrink it and place it just before the drawing of the fire. So it's like a visual illusion. I like it to completely cover most of it. And I use a color picker to pick the original color of my drawing to make it seamlessly together. Of course, it's not real seamless because later when I find out when you actually move the camera, you can actually see behind fire, which is not too bad because I want to make like 2.5D art, not completely 3D. So it's like when you open a storybook, but the storybook is like in 3D. Okay, so the character in the storybook just got pop out. And then I think the grass can have another layer. So I use the node to generate ground texture just to add a more variation to it. And because the computer is not high spec, so I got freeze multiple times. And after that, I use particle system to generate grass. I use the parent grass. You don't need to have a lot of grass, just a few parents, and then different parents have different children. And I can make multiple cluster of grass. And I tried different layouts, but finally decided I just stick with one because it's not too complex. And if I got multiple grass, when I move the camera, the result is not good. And of course, I add normal map and diffuse, so this can be used later when I want to create another thing. And it will also support the shadow cast on the grass. For now, we don't need to worry too much about that because in this scene, it's like at night, so it will be really dark of the grass. And after that, I think, hey, it's magic. I'm going to make some magic effects, like fireflies or sort of thing that fly around our character. I use geometric node to create an emitter, and I just use the monkey Suzanne as a reference because I think the Suzanne shape is really like our character's shape. And I use different nodes to make it round and random shape. And I use like a bloom effect at the render engine, so it have a blooming effect. And finally, I decided to change the color to blue, so it can have a magic feeling. Of course, you can stick with the fireflies or like small fire around her. And I also want to create a scene that is like a storybook. Where you open storybook, you turn the pages, and on all the pages are my drawings. And you zoom in the camera and zoom it out, and the character, the scene that I draw just become alive, like from 2D to 2.5D transition. But when I test the texture, I find that the book can actually use the blooming magic texture that I used on the emitter. So I think, hey, why not make a magic book for it? So I changed my mind. I might leave the turning pages animation to my next work and just use magic book for this. After that, I think, hey, This is still pretty still, so I'd like all the object inside to be moving, like floating. So I use transform to transform the position and use timeline to add different keyframe, and of course add a modifier where I can loop. And this is the moment where I realized I use a PNG image as a reference, but the final rendering result will not render a PNG. So I have to transform this PNG image into a plane with texture on it. I use plugin, I think it's called image to plane, and it worked perfectly. But it also requires me to use shading though to adjust the final result. And after that, I use GarageBand to record some tracks that I think can build the atmosphere. And of course, I add some magic effects by using shimmering instrument. Here is the final result. Thanks for your time. This is the first time I combine my 2D drawing with 3D modeling. If you think my video is helpful, if you want to support me, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumb up. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.